Iceland boasts some of the most mesmerizing landscapes in the world, and for some time now people have been discovering its beauty. Finally, I managed to get here as well after a couple of years of discovering the small nation only through books and studies, and I wanted to share with you some highlights of my little but incredible adventure. By the way, this is Irina. I'm a historian and history teacher, and this is my channel on Scandinavian and German culture. Feel free to browse through more topics, and if you enjoy, help me out with a like and subscribe. In a nutshell, Iceland sits on the front lines of the battle between pieces of the Earth's crust that move around and cause earthquakes and volcanoes as they slide past, under or over each other. The small European nation is situated on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a seam in the Earth's surface under the North Atlantic Ocean where the Eurasian and North American plates slide apart. The ridge includes a deep rift valley that runs along its axis, from which magma from the Earth's mantle, or the slab of material just below the planet's outer layer called the crust, seeps upward and erupts from the seafloor as lava. This lava hardens into new crust atop the two diverging plates. The plates move apart along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, an average of 2.5 centimeters per year, so this means that Iceland is growing as we speak. Iceland's position means that it is a hotspot for geologic activity, including earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and other phenomena such as geysers, meaning that Iceland is abundant with geothermal energy, so basically people there take electricity and heating for granted. The island nation has more than 200 volcanoes. The pocket of magma that sits beneath Iceland is thought to be what created the island, as hot lava rose to the surface of the ocean, where it cooled and gradually accumulated into an island beginning about 70 million years ago. It is the largest island on the ridge because of the additional volcanism caused by this plume under the country, which is moving slowly towards the northwest. Other islands of the Atlantic Ocean created by volcanism, the volcanism of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, are for example the Azores, Bermuda, Madeira, the Canary Islands, St. Helena or Tristan da Cunha. The evolution of the island continues through the same processes that created it, with volcanoes erupting every so often and new fissures appearing along their slopes. It is one of the most active volcanic regions on Earth. It is estimated that a third of the lava erupted since 1500 AD was produced in Iceland, and the island has 35 active volcanoes, so volcanoes that have erupted in the past 10,000 years. 11 volcanoes erupted between 1900 and 1999, for example Krafla, Askja, Grímsvötn, Fögrufjöll, Bárðarbunga, Kverkfjöll, Esjufjöll, Hekla, Katla, Surtsey or Heimaey. Most of the eruptions were from fissures or shield volcanoes and involved the effusion of basaltic lava. The 1783 eruption at Laki was the largest single historic eruption of basaltic lava, so recorded in history, with 14.7 cubic kilometers, and it is thought that it might also have been a trigger for the French Revolution because of the ash clouds, which sparked off famine and a lot of social and economic problems. Recent eruptions include the 1974-84 eruption at Krafla, a brief eruption at Hekla in 1991, and again in 2000, as well as the perhaps best-known Eyjafjallajökull eruption in 2010, when for about a week, more than a week, flights over Europe and North America were affected. There were also 4 eruptions at Grímsvötn quite recently, 96, 98, 2004, 2011, alongside the eruptions from the past 3 years in the Fagradalsfjall system, pretty close to the airport in Keflavik. Let's move on with the first highlight I wanted to present to you. This is something you are going to probably see during the Golden Circle trip if you visit Reykjavik. It's pretty simple to join such a trip, as there are many touristic companies offering it. What you can see here is the area known as Thingvellir. It is very close to the capital city, about 40 kilometers away, and it is extremely interesting and important both from a historical and geological perspective. So Iceland's settlement by the Norse started with the arrival of somebody called Ingólfur Arnarson in 874. This is more or less also archaeologically confirmed by a layer dating back to the 9th century, and for the next 50 years, let's say, the era was called the settlement period. District assemblies began to form. One center of power was concentrated in this area of the southwest around Reykjavik in the hands of the descendants of Ingólfur, but with the passage of time, the settlers spread around the rest of the country and pushed for a general assembly to establish how they could all live together. Traditionally, a man called Grímur was given the task of gathering, and there is a story about him convicting somebody of murder in this area of Thingvellir, and then this property turned public. The location would become afterwards the first Parliament of Iceland. While still clearly more convenient to reach for the wealthy individuals of the southwest, it took no more than 17 days of traveling from the furthest reaches of the country, so it was settled upon as the assembly's site. In 930, over 30 ruling chieftains met for the first time to discuss legislation, law on the island, and to create what is known as a commonwealth in the historiography of Iceland. The institution called the Alþingi developed to be a place where disputes, feuds were settled, where distant relatives could share their news, and where criminals were tried and punished. No one single person ruled the entire parliament. Head was the law speaker, but his task was that of the mouthpiece of the institution with the ceremonial power, so he would recite the laws, and he got paid for it. As a matter of fact, he was the only one to get paid, but overall decisions were made collectively. It was here that the nation, for example, abandoned pre-Christian religion, the Old Norse belief system, in favor of Christianity in the year 1000, due, for example, to the threat of Norwegian invasion, and in order to get more integrated into the trading networks of Europe. Nearly a millennium later, in 1944, it is here where Icelanders declared their independence from Denmark. Now, geologically speaking, Iceland is the only place in the world where this mid-Atlantic rift is above sea level, and nowhere can you see the edges of both plates as clearly as in this very special place known as Thingvellir, the Assembly Plains. So as you enter the park from Reykjavik, you will descend a steep cliff into a valley. Looking upon the face of this cliff is to literally look at the edge of North America. If you drive through the park, you will ascend on the other side, adjacent to another wall. This is Eurasia. The valley in between, in which Thingvellir is contained, is the Rift Valley. One of the national park's most pleasant walks takes you between the edge of the North American plate and an old part of the wall that collapsed away. This is called the Gorge of Landmannalaugar. This path displays the geological processes going on here very clearly and ends with the charming waterfall called Foss. Another highlight of this trip, known as the Golden Circle, is the geysir, or the geysers. It's a whole area of them, the geysir geothermal area, and the name itself is after one of these elemental forces. The geysir lent its name to all others across the world. It comes from a verb meaning to gush. Strokkur, on the other hand, is the greatest active geyser on the site. Geyser itself, so the one who gave the name, is in a period of inactivity. Strokkur erupts more regularly than geyser ever did, blasting water to heights of around 15 to 20 meters every 5 to 10 minutes, but it can also reach heights of 40 meters, so it is pretty spectacular. If you stay close to it, attempting to film it, you may get bathed away, but I think it's worth it because it's really a spectacular moment. Just be very careful if you visit it because the water is pretty hot. What is exactly a geysir? Well, there are a couple of conditions to be met if we are to witness such a phenomenon. The first condition is that we need an intense heat source, so magma must be close enough to the surface of the earth for the rocks to be hot enough to boil water. Then you will need a source of flowing underground water. In the case of Strokkur, this comes from the second largest glacier in the country, the Langjökull. Meltwater from the glacier sinks into the surrounding porous lava rock and travels underground in all directions. Finally, you will need a complex plumbing system that allows a geysir to erupt rather than just steam from the ground. Above the intense heat source, there must also be a space for the flowing water to gather like a reservoir. From this reservoir, there must be a vent to the surface, and the vent must be lined with silica so that the boiling, rising water cannot escape before the eruption. Strokkur is protected by the authorities because they want to avoid the fate of geysir. One of the reasons why geysir is inactive is believed to have been the fact that soap was pumped into the vent to make it more spectacular, but it disturbed this vent and geysir got a little upset because of it, and he won't rise anymore. Very close to the assembly plains, you can also see the Gullfoss, the Golden Falls, one of Iceland's most iconic waterfalls found in the Hvítá River Canyon in southwest Iceland. The water in Hvítá River travels from the glacier Langjökull I mentioned before cascading 32 meters down Gullfoss's two stages. Be careful if you want to go all the way to the top. It's worth it, of course, but it can get very crowded and also very slippery. Gullfoss also has an interesting story. It was at the center of a controversy at the beginning of the 20th century, a controversy involving foreign investors and their desire to, profit off the nature of Iceland. In the year 1907, there was this English businessman by the name of Howell who sought to utilize the energy of the waterfall to fuel a hydroelectric plant. At the time, Gullfoss was owned by a farmer named Thomas, and he didn't really agree to Howell's offer to purchase the land. However, he would go on to lease the land without the knowledge of some loopholes that would allow the Englishman to proceed with his plans. It was Thomas' daughter Sigriður Tómasdóttir who would lead the charge to stop the ambitions of the Englishman. She grew up on her father's farm and she helped pave the first road to Gullfoss, by the way. So she was pretty bound to the place, which is why she sought to get the contract nullified. For this, she used all of her money to hire a lawyer, and her efforts paid off because in 1929 Howell withdrew from the lease. Fun fact, the lawyer who assisted Sigriður, Svein Björnsson, went on to go down to history too because he became the first president of an independent Iceland in 1944. These highlights so far were very close to the capital city. If you want to see even more spectacular stuff, you will have to go a little bit further, either by a minivan tour or by renting your own jeep. Mind you, about 1/3 of the roads in Iceland are not paved. They are roads where it can get really tricky. For example, you will have to cross rivers, so you will definitely need an appropriate car to do so. But it is worth joining a tour or doing it by yourself if you have the opportunity, especially in the area known as the Highlands. So in the Highlands, you are going to find such landscapes. This is a crater, the Blahylur crater, and it is pretty stunning. It is in the southern highlands, and it was formed during an immense volcanic eruption in 871, just a few years before the first settlers arrived. In 871, there was a catastrophic level volcanic activity from the Bárðarbunga and Torfajökull stratovolcanoes with effects across the entire Icelandic highlands. And this is a type of volcanic crater that forms when groundwater contacts hot lava, and it fills with water to create a shallow crater lake, as it did here with Blahylur. It got its name from the deep blue color of its water, and the striking contrast of this blue water against the browns and greys and greens of the region forms a landscape of glorious beauty. Speaking of grey, very close to the crater, you're going to find moon-like landscapes where some stuff was filmed, for example Rogue One, Star Wars Rogue One, and where scientists and astronauts also practiced the moon landing. The very greyish landscapes you can see in the highlands are due to the massive erosion that has been happening in Iceland for some time now. So I saw that crater as I was traveling to the Landmannalaugar, the Rainbow Mountains. The term itself actually translates to the People's Pools, and this is a vast area of stunning beauty in the heart of Iceland's southern highlands. The region can be found beside the raven black Laugahraun lava field, an expanse of dried magma that formed originally in an eruption which took place in 1477. The region is made up of windswept rhyolite mountains, which is a rock type that creates this full spectrum of dazzling colors. So you will see shades of green and red and pink and blue and yellow, making for a truly ethereal location. And to be frank, I think it is my favorite thing in Iceland. So it's definitely something which impressed me so much that I didn't want to leave the place, and next time I'm going to try to stay a little bit more. It is an area worth exploring thoroughly. There are a lot of hiking tracks, and there is also a camping site with pretty much everything you need, including a small hot spring. And speaking of hot springs, Landmannalaugar was historically best known for its natural geothermal baths. That's why it is called the People's Pools. For centuries it served as an area of shelter for weary travelers who used these soothing springs as a means to relax after tiring excursions. It marks the northern end of the Laugavegur, which is one of Iceland's most popular hiking trails. It is a route that connects Landmannalaugar and Þórsmörk, the valley of Thor, ending at the beautiful Skógafoss waterfall. I'm going to show you a little bit later. Exploring this region can also be quite challenging because you are dealing with rugged terrain, so stay on the marked trails and don't attempt to do something too adventurous. Getting across a lava field is not as easy as it seems, because you will have to step on pretty sharp stones at some point, and it can also get dangerous if you don't pay attention. So because I have one more spectacular photograph to show you, I am going to take advantage of this opportunity and mention a little bit about the weather. So I spent 2 weeks in Iceland, and to my great surprise and fortune, it only rained like 2 times and briefly. But I must say that weather in Iceland tends to be a little erratic, actually very erratic, so the best thing to do is to dress in layers and always expect pouring rain. Also pay attention to have jackets that can withstand wind, because when it is windy, it tends to get hurricane-like at times because, like I mentioned before, Iceland has a high degree of erosion, so there is no natural barrier to the wind, so it tends to get pretty annoying. Well, on another trip, I visited the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, which is in the west of the country, but north of the capital city, and to the west. And there I saw one of the most beautiful lava fields, or at least in my opinion. I don't know. I was so fascinated by these lava fields that I think I could have spent an eternity on them, just exploring and staring at them. So what you can see here is the Berserkjahraun. Hraun actually is the Icelandic term for lava, and it is also the chocolate bar in the shape of a lava flow. Very, very tasty. Might as well try it if you get here. So Berserkjahraun is a 4,000-year-old lava field situated, like I said, on the Snæfellsnes Peninsula between the towns of Stykkishólmur and Grundarfjörður. The name comes from one of the Icelandic sagas, the Eyrbyggja saga. According to the story, there was this farmer who brought 2 berserkers from Sweden. By the way, berserkers are not really positive characters in the Icelandic sagas. So he brought them to the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, and he later gave the berserkers to his brother Vigastir, who lived on the other side of the lava field. One of the Swedes fell in love with Vigastir's daughter and asked for her hand in marriage. So Vigastir made a deal with the berserker. He could have his daughter's hand if the 2 Swedes could clear a path through the lava field, connecting his farm to his brother's. This feat was considered impossible, but the berserkers actually managed to complete the path quickly. Instead of keeping his promise, on the other hand, Vigastir had the 2 Swedes killed and buried them near the path, and that's why it is now called the Berserkjahraun. I'm also very happy to have seen this very picturesque pyramid-shaped mountain called the Kirkjufelll. And fun fact, as I am speaking and telling you about this right now, the church bells are ringing quite loudly. It's funny because Kirkja it means church in Icelandic, so this is the church mountain. It is a distinctly shaped peak found on the north shore of Iceland's Snæfellsnes Peninsula, a short distance away from the town of Grundarfjörður. At the base of the mountains, visitors will also be able to find a lake. On clear days, this lake reflects the perfect mirror image of Kirkjufelll, adding to this fantastic landscape and a lot of photo opportunities around the area, of course. On top of that, the colors of Kirkjufelll change with the seasons, and its beauty was also used in popular culture, as it was a shooting location from season 7 of Game of Thrones. The mountain is showcased in the episode Beyond the Wall. So if you are a fan of the series, go back to this episode and spot Kirkjufelll in it. After this, I went to a black sand beach, the Djupalonssandur, a bay of dark cliffs and black sand located on the same peninsula of Snæfellsnes. The location was once home to a fishing village, as a matter of fact, similar to other abandoned hamlets and ports of the area known as Búðir. These used to thrive back when the peninsula functioned as one of the most active trading posts of the island, and fascinating remnants of the period are found in the form of, for example, lifting stones that still occupy the beach. So fishermen used to, measure their strengths by trying to lift the stones. The Black Pebble Beach is very impressive due to its rocky coastal lava formations, which include a large lava rock with a hole in the middle through which you can directly look at the Snæfellsjökull glacier, volcano. Yes, this peninsula also has a small glacier, which unfortunately I think will be the first one to melt. All glaciers of Iceland are in the process of melting, and it is estimated that in about 150, 200 years, everything is going to melt on the island. And fun fact, this mountain glacier volcano is also the one Jules Verne imagined to be the passage to the center of the earth in his book. All right. Then you can also find freshwater lagoons here, and you can also find rock formations of folklorish appeal close by, including the alleged trolls turned to stone Kettling and Lone Drangar. This is something you will hear quite often about these rock formations here, in folklore. When a troll gets caught by sunlight, it will turn into stone. Very close by, I stopped in Arnarstapi, a fascinating village on the southern side of the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, once a fishing hub. Records of settlements around Arnarstapi date back to the saga of Bárðar, an ancient story telling of half human, half ogre who lived on the peninsula. Since his death, he has been considered the area's guardian spirit. Denmark invested a lot of money into this little village throughout the 18th and 19th century, but not to the interest of the Icelandic people, as it often happened. Many of the resulting buildings still stand today, being some of the oldest in the country, such as the prefect's residence built in the 1770s. In the Industrial Revolution, Arnarstapi's population shrunk, which was something common in the countryside at the time. The majority of the jobs you could find were now centralized in Reykjavik, and this reduced opportunities for small-time fishermen drastically. But the village is still in use, both as a tourist site, and there are also people who have small vacation cabins in the area. And I also saw some people fishing, but I don't think it is, obviously as important as it used to be like 200 years ago. Okay, I'm going to stop here for the time being. The second part is coming right up in a couple of days, as well as much more material on Icelandic culture. I hope to have sparked a little bit of your curiosity. So stay tuned till next time, and if you have a question or personal impression, feel more than welcome to share it in the comment section. Thank you very much for listening. This was Irina. Have a great day, and follow me for more Icelandic cultural insights.